on Early Breakfast. Now, menthol cigarettes, they were banned here 4 years ago. Flavours were banned, and the kind of idea was it was going to help tackle youth smoking. Research out today, though, suggests 1 in 7 smokers are still using them. That's about 1 million of us. Tobacco firms, so says The Times this morning, have exploited loopholes in the law to sell legal alternatives. So it might be that smokers are buying things like menthol-flavoured drops, which you then add to your normal cigarette, and hey presto, it's like a menthol cigarette. Today's No Smoking Day. I thought it'd be good to look at kind of what strategies actually work to, first of all, prevent people start smoking and then help people to stop it. Hazel Cheesman is Deputy Chief Executive of Action on Smoking and Health and is with us this morning. Hazel, good morning.
Good morning.
I assume you're not going to be surprised that we've managed to find sort of loopholes around rules that were designed to, to disincentivise us from smoking.
No, I mean, the certainty of death taxes in the tobacco industry subverting regulations in order to continue to sell products. It is the story of the last 50 years is every time governments regulate to limit the sale of tobacco products around the world, the tobacco industry finds a way of subverting or avoiding or minimising the impact on their sales. Because obviously this is a tremendously profitable commodity, and they want to be able to continue to sell those products to as many people as possible.
And they can do that legally. I mean, sounds like people are getting these drops that make the cigarettes taste like menthol, which I understand the reason that they wanted to ban menthol specifically was that it kind of gives the perception that it's not hurting your throat as much when you smoke.
Yeah, it can make products kind of more, easier to smoke and, more acceptable. And obviously, the reason why we banned flavours in the first place was because it was part of a way of making tobacco appealing. And menthol is obviously one of those flavours which is often associated with health. We have a lot of medications which have menthol flavour in them. And, that's why the tobacco industry are keen to keep the use of menthol products in the UK. And of course, what happens in the UK is often exported around the world. I mean, we see at the moment the government considering this landmark policy around prohibiting the sale of tobacco to those born before 2009. And the tobacco industry is obviously worried about those regulations coming in here, but they're worried as well that they'll be picked up elsewhere. And the same will be true on menthol tobacco, that in other markets where menthol, particularly in the US, is quite popular, that these regulations will kind of go around the world.
What really works in getting us to stop smoking?
Well, it is regulation. I mean, the things that work to prevent young people from taking up smoking have been about how we have shaped the adult world. So we saw through the 80s and 90s, we spent a lot of time telling teenagers that smoking was bad for them. And it didn't make any difference to the rate at which young people started smoking. It was really only when we started to remove the advertising of products, to raise the age of sale from 16 to 18, introducing smoke-free legislation, really changing the adult world that people are growing up into, that we saw quite big falls in teen smoking. And of course, the same is true for adult smoking prevalence. That's sort of changing the environment that we're living in helps people to quit smoking. But in addition, for adults, we also need, support to help people stop and motivation to help them quit. And again, with today being No Smoking Day, which is one of the days established, 40 years ago today, in fact, to encourage smokers to quit. It's brilliant that the government has also invested in a new, mass marketing campaign back on TV, encouraging adults to quit smoking. So it's these sorts of things that really bring smoking down, a kind of combination of regulating, changing the environment that we live in, and supporting people to quit.
And there was some kind of polling last week that shows more than 2/3 of us want to see the country free from smoking. How likely do you think it is? The government want to have this smoke-free generation, copying really a policy first suggested by New Zealand, and then New Zealand realised actually we've scrapped it. Do you think we'll be sort of a world first in achieving that?
I do absolutely think we'll be a world first. And the reason why New Zealand have not proceeded is not because of an assessment that that this policy won't work or for a lack of popularity, but due to the domestic politics of New Zealand and deals being done to create a coalition. But what it means is that the UK will probably be the first country in the world to implement this policy. And as I say, hopefully it will be a regulation that goes around the world, and the tobacco industry are rightly lobbying hard to resist that at the moment. And they're looking again for those loopholes. We see Philip Morris. My Twitter feed is absolutely full of adverts from Philip Morris at the moment, telling me that their smoke-free product is, shouldn't be included in the in this new law to prohibit the sale of tobacco to those under the age, to those born before 2009. Because again, they're looking for those opportunities to continue to sell products into the future to those to that next generation.
Oh, and we just see how the vaping industry's changed in sort of the last 10 years or so to kind of adapt to different loopholes. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. And today, No Smoking Day. I know you've got a big event in Parliament a little bit later on. MPs also telling their stories about the impact of smoking on their lives and why they're sort of supportive of this idea for the government to have a smoke-free generation. It's going to be fascinating. Hazel, thank you so much. Hazel Cheesman, Deputy Chief Executive of Action on Smoking and Health. Let's look at the business news and particularly